Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we would like to present our study on understanding the impact of COVID-19 outbreak in Malaysia. So this is our group member. So this presentation, inshallah, will cover some introductions, then global economy view, economy sector, pandemic outbreak. Last, we will come up with the some conclusions and recommendation. So as introduction, economic growth is arising in the performance of economic productions. Gross domestic product GDP is important to analyze the economic growth of country because it is one of the most important economic indicator. It summarizes the economic activity and the most appropriate approximations of economic performance. There are many factors that might influence the rate of GDP in one country, such money supply, consumer price index, import-exports of goods and services, stock prices, investment rates, exchange rate, employment rate, unemployment rate, and inflation rates. There are also evidence that current pandemic of COVID-19 might cause GDP to drop in most countries, including Malaysia. The economy in Malaysia has decreased by 17.1% in the second quarter of year 2020 due to the ongoing pandemic COVID-19 that triggered the performance of the economy in Malaysia. With that, this study is conducted to understand the impact of GDP towards the COVID-19 in Malaysia. Just get the overview of global economy as a whole. So global economy has improved significantly, and these changes are embedding in how the world economy is structured and regulated in the past few decades. These transitions influence the movements of goods and services through national boundaries and the effects of the mechanism on how governments step up or down in the global system. Some analysts have interpreted the contemporary global economy as such in the transformation to a modern economy or digital revolution. So based on the IMF, Malaysia has the nation's highest debt ratio, which is 56.3% of GDP, with the consumption rising faster than GDP. So this study was conducted by January 2020. So now we wanted to have a look on the economy sector. Few researchers have found that by analyzing the contributions of industries to economic development, service sectors are the greatest contribution to the Malaysia's economy. The services sector is tertiary sector of the economy industry which offers service but does not produce raw resources or manufactured products. Based on the International Monetary Fund (IMF) in 2015, Malaysia controlled 55% of GDP for the services sectors as a higher middle income country with a competitive economy. 25% of the manufacturing sector, with 8% of the mining sector and 7% of the agriculture following in the distance as cited by ASA in 2016. So as industrial product concedes higher income, demand elasticity, manufacturing is recognized as an engine of economic development. So this study was conducted in 2013. So according to ASA again, manufacturing also can be classified as a productions of products that use machine, equipment, and workforce. Handicraft, technology, gadget differ from the manufacturing practices. So now we wanted to have a look on the pandemic's outbreaks. Study conducted uh, by the researcher examined microeconomic effects and manufacturing shocks of the COVID-19 using the preferred model. So this study recommended that the baseline global GDP is envisioned to fall by 2% for the world and 2.5% for developing countries. In the performance of trade and services, the tremendous output shocks is counted. This scenario also demonstrates that even the global collective measure on containment of the COVID-19 outbreak could drastically affect the world economy system in the quick run. Study conducted also in 2020 stated that the COVID-19 spread internationally. Many countries decided to limit the virus spread through physical isolation policy. A lot of companies and educational institutions need to shut down, limiting the work time for the labor force and restricting the mobility of people. So this prevention action taken had in an instance an important effect on all economies, which include currency trades and tourism on companions' economies. Since March 2020, the service sector in India has been stretched due to the sluggish in demand, especially from the global market. So same goes to the Malaysia situations. So an alarming urgency in controlling the pandemic to protect from the possibility of the catastrophe in Malaysia, healthcare sector has prompted the government to take stricter actions. Research also been conducted and revealed that imposition of restrictions in internal movements and internal travel restrictions by the government had a positive impact on the economy activity performance. The extended periods of MCO was prolonged as the number of confirmed coronavirus cases increasing. The increasing number of lockdown days caused a significant economic disruptions. So now we proceed with the conclusions and recommendations. So the study on the economy in the country will be immense benefit to many people, many parties. This study provides insight into which indicator that contribute to Malaysia GDP. So a country's GDP considers a range of different variables about the country's performance, including its expenditure and investments. Hence, the government will be able to recognize which indicator that impact the most and least for economic growth. The nation's health can be tracked. This study will give a better understanding for the government on which sector that should be improved and which will gain more profit to the country. Investor view on economy developments and profitability depends on the indicators of economic condition. A change in economic condition will cause investors to be more concerned about the future, and when they expect better return, they will be actually spend more. Similarly, corporations track global trend and obtain insight into the growth and sustainability of their own revenue. For example, an investor will look at the investments and stock price, economic environments, and understand whether momentum is improving or slowing down and change its market plan accordingly. How government behave during this pandemic determine economy of a country. A poor economy implies lower profits and lower stock prices. Investors pay attention to GDP because a consequential percentage shift in GDP can have a consequential impact on the stock markets, whether up or down. Business and spending are boosting by economic growth. So the government can see how the economy behave and take action to restore economic performance after the pandemics happened. So with that, I and we end our presentation today. Assalamualaikum.